this tutorial we're going to be looking at a self-submitting form wherever you include the form inside any file. So if you don't understand the purpose of this tutorial, we have a template file here which is our index.php file, and we're going to be including in here, using our php include function, this form.php file. However, when you do create a form, you always need to supply an action. Well, not always, but the majority of the time if you're processing data, you need to include a form action. Now, if I was to create a form in form.php and I wanted to include it in index.php, my form action in form.php would have to be index.php. So if you're confused already, I do apologize, but let's go ahead and see what I mean. So I'm going to create a form. The method is going to be post, and we're going to leave the action blank for just now. And I'm going to take a really simple example, and I'm going to create a text field with the name name, and just wrap that there, name. Okay, so what I'm essentially going to do is get the user to fill in their name. So the type of this one's going to be submit, and the value there is going to be submit. So essentially when the user clicks this, we're going to be echoing out the user's name. It's a very simple example that there's no real need to explain. So the action is going to be form.php, for example, because we are on form.php. Our processing is going to happen up here on form.php, so it's only natural to think, yep, the action needs to be form.php. So let's go ahead here and first of all check if our posted variable has been submitted. So that is name, which corresponds to this. So if it does exist, we're going to create a new variable called name. That's going to be equal to $_post name. We're just taking this here and putting it into name, and we're also going to apply HTML entities to this to ensure that we're not echoing out any HTML or other code onto our page. So we're going to say if not empty name. We're checking that the name isn't empty using the exclamation operator to check that it's not, basically. We're going to echo out your name is name. Okay, so it's a pretty standard example. We're checking for the existence of the name that's been submitted. We're creating a variable called name with this posted data name. If it's not empty, we're going to echo out your name is something. So let's go ahead and access this form.php file. So I'm going to type in Alex and click submit, and you can see that all it does is say your name is Alex. Pretty easy example. Now what happens if I want to go back to my index.php file and I want to, let's come over to that, and I want to break into PHP and include form.php. Okay, so it may be something you want to do if you're including things in templates. That's all very well and good. The form appears like magic. I can type in Alex, click submit. However, the problem that we're getting is we're redirecting our user back to form.php when we submit. Now, we could have included this form.php in our index file, and we could have had the PHP processing just here. So we could have this form.php file in these PHP tags here. However, when you're working with templates, you may not want that to happen, and you may want to include things so you can change things throughout your website. Now, the problem that we face is it's the form action is form.php. We could say index.php. That would be easy. Now what will happen is we can type in Alex, click submit, and it pops up just there. Okay? We can do that. However, what happens if you want to include this form.php file in another file as well? So we could have, say, blog.php. What are we then going to do? We've got index.php it's submitting to, but if we were to, let's say, copy this design, create a new file called blog.php, and we could say here blog, and let's go over to that. So we've included the same form in another file. However, when we type it, it's then going to go back to our index.php, because essentially what we are stuck with is this index.php here. Now what we're going to use is we're going to use a combination of a global server variable, which is php_self, and HTML entities for security. Now let me go ahead and do the unsecure way first, and we can see that it works, and then I'll go ahead and add in the HTML entities function just to show you, well, I won't be showing you, but to incorporate the security into it. So the action needs to be interchangeable. It needs to work for every page that we have on our website that we want to include this form in. So like I showed you before, we type in Alex, click submit, and it goes back to index.php. What we now want to do is break into PHP. We create a starting PHP tag and we create an ending PHP tag, and we echo out $_server, and then in square brackets, and then in inverted or single quotation marks, php_self. Now you can have a look at these global server variables in the PHP documentation, and you'll have a list of options that you have. But php_self is essentially the path and the file name of the current page that the user is viewing. So in this case, if we were in index.php, this action would equal the file, the path, and then index.php. If we were including this file in blog.php, this value here would then update, and it would now then equal blog.php. So we can have a look at this in our page when we view our page source. So let's view the page source. Form action equals, and you can see how it's changed here, and we now have index.php as well as the path name as well. Okay, so now what we can do is come off of this, go into blog.php, right click, view page source, and you can see that this is now changed and it's now blog.php. So the form that we've included here now updates to wherever we have this file included. So let's try it on blog.php first. We'll type Alex and click submit, and it stays on our blog.php, yet we still process this PHP code. If we then go over to index.php, we can then type in Alex, click submit, and it's done exactly the same thing. Now when you're using this, you have to be careful because specific data can be injected into it, mainly HTML data, to cause an XSS vulnerability. So what we want to do is we want to wrap this completely in the HTML entities function, and it will still work, but it will just mean that we can't inject any HTML code into there. So it works exactly this. It works. Oh, sorry. Forgotten the extra I in there. It works in exactly the same way. So we can type Alex, click submit. It still works, and the same with the blog.php. If we type in my name and click submit, and we have this added level of security to ensure that we can't, or the user cannot inject anything into the file itself, or the file path here itself.